Hi there, smart drivers. Talking to you tonight about 8 reasons that you will potentially fail your driver's test. Have the skills and techniques in place. Be ready. Get lots of practice. You'll pass your driver's test first time. First impressions, okay? Think of those. Have a shower, comb your hair, put on some decent clothes that aren't ripped. Those types of things if you're going to go in for your driver's test, because these do matter. When I was teaching truck driving and taking drivers down for their license test, if they had tats and piercings and facial piercings and those types of things, and they got one driving instructor who was ex-military, I could always see the look on his face when he looked at them, and it was going to be tougher for them to pass their driver's test. So know that. As well, if you're taking your own vehicle, make sure it's clean. Get all of the fast food wrappers out of the footwells and those types of things, although I don't think that's much of a problem anymore with inflation. Somebody was on Twitter today complaining about the fact that their meal at Arby's cost $53. So I'm not sure that we're going to have as many fast food wrappers in the footwells and whatnot, but get all of the garbage out of your car, clean it. Most car wash places, the vacuums are free. Take it down, give it a vacuum, give it a quick wash, those types of things. Do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle. Make sure that everything is working, because if you have a headlight out or something like that, again, it comes back to first impressions that you are giving to the examiner, and he or she is going to do a pre-trip inspection before you head out on the roadway. They're going to make sure that your vehicle is safe for the roadways. So the seat belt on the passenger side works. Make sure that you have the insurance in the vehicle, the registration, all the lights work, the brake lights work, the turn signals work, all the running lights work. Check the fluid levels under the hood and make sure that you have enough fuel for your driver's test. It would be rather embarrassing, you get halfway through your driver's test and run out of fuel. So make sure that you have fuel as well for the trip. Again, seat belts, and make sure there's no cracks in the windshields, those types of things, and do the pre-trip inspection as well, because something simple like a brake light out can easily be fixed in 10 or 15 minutes. If you're fairly handy with a screwdriver, you can fix that before you head down for your driver's test. All right, pass your driver's test first time course package is on sale over at the Smart Drive Test website. You can pick that up for $37.95. You can get yourself off the bus and you can get yourself in riding around with your friends and taking road trips in your car. So check that out over at the Smart Drive Test website. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997, which is crazy to think that was almost 30 years ago, quarter of a century ago. 2006, I graduated with my doctorate in legal history from the University of Melbourne in Australia. I did drive buses there while I was going to university to support my way through university. Drove for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines. And then in 2016, I started the online YouTube channel. And it's been wildly more successful than I could have ever imagined. The freelance work that I do, the courses I do outside of it, and the number of people that I have helped just really, fills my bucket, and it is part of my passion to help people become safer, smarter drivers and to get their license, because there's no other feeling in the world like getting your first license and driving by yourself. Good stuff to have a look at. First driving lesson with Charlie, improving the basics of driving, and really, if you're learning how to drive and preparing to take a driver's test, slow speed maneuvers, parallel parking, backing into a parking space, 3-point turn, and yes, you have to signal when you're reversing for parallel parking, backing into a parking space, 3-point turns, those types of things. Learn how to do all of that. And then, of course, there's the podcast over at the Smart Drive Test website. 8 reasons that you may potentially fail your driver's test. And again, this is the reason for the live stream, is we want to take away the driving examiner's right to fail us. Nothing less, nothing more. Reason number 8 for failing your driver's test: you do not have control of the primary controls of the vehicle. Okay, the steering wheel, the brake, the throttle. And if you're taking your license in a manual car in Europe and other places in the world, mostly because it's unlikely here in North America that you're going to be taking your test in a manual car. My daughter might be, if she takes the buggy. So you want to be smooth on your acceleration, you want to be smooth with your turning, and you want to be smooth with your braking. And this is all going to say to the examiner whether you have had enough driving practice or not. So practice all of this. Your turns are too wide, you wander in your lane and you're not centered. This is because you're not looking far enough down the road, or you have not had enough practice sessions before taking your driver's test. So, primary controls. Mastery of the primary controls is number 8. Number 7, lane positioning. Okay, if you are turning left on a multi-lane intersection, you do in fact have to move back to the right lane, and the examiner will not tell you to do this. They will expect you to do this. The reason for this, every state, every province has a sign that says slower traffic, stay right. And yes, it does apply to traffic in the city. I don't care what people say, whether it's the law or not. Okay? It's what driving instructors such as myself say. It's what driving examiners say. That's all that matters when you're taking your driver's test. And I'm a driving instructor. I've been a driving instructor for a very long time. And I'm telling you, you need to drive in the right lane, because slower traffic, keep right. You are going to be doing the posted speed limit. Everybody else is going to be keeping up with the traffic flow, which is going to be 5 miles an hour at least over the posted speed limit. So you are going to be the slowest vehicle on the road. So move back over to the right lane and drive in the right lane, unless the driving examiner tells you to turn left in the next block or so. Okay, turn left lane to left lane, merging, lane changes and moving. All of this needs to be competency. You need to have competency in these maneuvers. Moving the vehicle laterally, which is a lane change. You need to communicate effectively. Remember that traffic signals, turn signals rather, your turn signals are to tell others that you wish to move over, not that you are going to move over. You need 3 flashes minimum before moving the vehicle. The reason you need 3 flashes is the first flash gets the attention of the other driver. The second allows them to locate you, and the third allows them to take some sort of action, whether that's passing you or slowing down and creating a gap. And if they're passing you, don't get upset about that, because they're doing you a favor and getting out of your way. So, 3 flashes on the signal. You must come to a complete stop immediately for emergency vehicles. And for those of you in Ontario and other places, this is a maneuver that the examiner could ask you to do on the driver's test, which is to do an emergency stop along the route. You want to pull over to the curb, signal, stop, apply the parking brake, and activate your 4-way flashers. And then the same maneuver when pulling away from a curb. Mirror signal shoulder check, look, 3 flashes on the signal, look again, and then proceed when the way is clear. Number 6, being too cautious. If you are too namby-pamby on the driver's test, you're going to leave one of those comments where you're like, oh, they purposely failed me. I was being careful, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's the examiner's fault that I failed. Yes, how many times have I heard that? 9 times out of 10, it is not the examiner's fault that you failed. You simply were not ready, or something went wrong in the driving environment that you could not handle. So, do not let somebody else's opinion of you become your reality. Just because the driving examiner failed you doesn't mean you're a bad driver. Something could have gone wrong that you just simply couldn't handle or didn't have the experience to handle. So, know that. Just book your test again, take it again, and you will be successful. So don't drive namby-pamby. You need to get the car up to speed as quickly as possible, and you need to drive the posted speed limit and go when the gap presents itself. Number 5, observation. You need to observe correctly. And the number 1 mistake that new drivers make is they do not shoulder check enough. And remember, not shoulder checking is to driving what not checking to see if a weapon is loaded is to gun safety. Why on any planet would you move a 3,000 pound vehicle at speed, change directions, and not check into your blind areas to see if there's another road user there? All right? Looking far down the road, monitor your gauges, looking out the rear window when reversing, and checking your mirrors at least every 10 to 12 seconds. You need to have that forward scanning pattern in place and observe correctly when you're driving. And observation dovetails with communication, because if you miss something when you're driving and you're observing, communication will often allow other road users to compensate for the error in your observation. Road signs. Action contrary to a regulatory sign will cause you to fail on a driver's test. Okay? Failing to adjust speed according to signs and conditions of the roadway. Lane end signs, stop signs. You must know the difference between 2-way stop signs and 4-way stop signs. School zone signs. You must know the difference between the school in area and a school speed zone sign. All right, speeding in a school speed zone sign when school is in session is an automatic fail on a driver's test. Okay, road markings. Do not cross solid white lines. Again, we come back to it is not the law and I don't have to do it. Okay, well, whatever. Once you have your license, that's all fine and dandy. But when you don't have your license and a driving instructor says to you not to cross over solid yellow or solid white lines, rather, not to cross over solid white lines because it's prohibited, if you do it enough times on a driver's test, you will not be successful because you have committed a consistent error where every time you were assigned 5 points. So there's 2 ways to fail a driver's test: demerit points and outright fails. Demerit points, you were assigned 5 to 8 points for every minor error, and you're assigned 10 to 20 points for every major error. Crossing over a solid white line is a minor error, and you will be assigned 5 every time. You want to try and minimize the amount of demerit you get on a driver's test. Okay, railway crossings is another regulatory sign that you must obey for the purposes of your driver's test. Striking a fixed object. Backing into the concrete barrier at the back of the parking space in the DMV is one of the ways you will fail your driver's test. Three-point turn, parallel parking, reverse stall parking, backing into a parking space with pylons. If you strike any of the pylons, that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. Okay, Ohio and California and Maryland are the only places that I know of that do not require you to parallel park on the driver's test. Okay, in Ohio, it's the Ohio Maneuverability Test, which gives new drivers no end of grief. California, you have to back up along the curb for 50 feet, and Maryland, you have to do a 2-point reverse turn. Okay, parking, 3-point turns, also called K-turns or Y-turns. 3-point turn, yes, you do have to signal going forward and reversing for the purposes of the maneuver and passing your driver's test. Dangerous maneuver, blocking an intersection. If you are proceeding straight through an intersection and you cannot clear the intersection when the light turns red, that is blocking an intersection. You will fail your driver's test automatically. Okay, this does not apply to left-hand turns. Okay. If you're in the intersection when the light goes yellow and the light goes red and you clear the intersection immediately, there's a high probability you will not fail on a driver's test executing a left-hand turn. However, if the light turns red on a left-hand turn and you hesitate and you're sitting there and don't know what to do, that will be an automatic fail on a driver's test. Okay, backing up in an intersection, the examiner intervenes. You go when there's insufficient gap, or another road user has to take evasive action so they don't get run over by you. Unfortunately, all of these are automatic fails on a driver's test. And the number one reason that you will not be successful on a driver's test, you must know what is on the driver's test for your test center. Do they parallel park with cones? Do they have a specific place where they want you to back into a parking space? 3-point turns, reverse stall parking. Backing up along the curb for 50 feet. Where are the schools and the speed school zone signs? Is school in session? If you don't know and don't have the answers to these questions, hire a local driving instructor to do a 1-hour lesson. The return on investment of the $100 or the $150, whatever it is really high. Driving instructors will do 3 things. They will take you on the test route. They won't tell you they take you on the test route, but they do take you on the test route. They will take you to the spot where the examiners do the slow speed maneuvers. They will take you where they do the parallel parking, where they do the 3-point turns, because they do these on very quiet residential streets. And there's a specific place near the DMV that they take you to do these. So hiring a driving instructor, if you don't take driving lessons, is valuable, and there is a very high return on investment. All right, pass your driver's test first time course package. Just reiterate that it is on sale over at the Smart Drive Test website. Have a look at that. And good luck on your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. And if you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from, what class of license you're going for, and how we can help you out. I was just checking my audio there, making sure it was working. Everybody could hear me. Somebody was telling me during the week that one of the live streams, the audio wasn't good and it wasn't working for them. I checked it, and it was in fact working, but I'm not sure what the problem was. So they said that they were having difficulty with it for whatever reason. Hello, Marion. Can you please turn up the sound a little bit? Hard to hear. Okay, here we go. Turning up the sound. There we go. How's that? Is that better? So yes, I was having other people here. I'll try this as well, and move the microphone closer to me is what I'm going to do. All right, so your job in terms of taking a driver's test is to demonstrate to the examiner that you have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. That is yours. That is your job. Yes, thank you, Marion, for helping me out with that, making sure we get the audio to the right level. That is your job. The examiner's job is to assess your ability to demonstrate your ability to handle the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. So whether that's light, weather, snow, traffic, road conditions, school zones, those types of things, you have to be able to demonstrate all of that to the examiner. That is your job. So easy peasy to pass a driver's test. You have to take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. Nothing less, nothing more. That's what you need to do to pass a driver's test. Corey is here, Bricks for Wheels. He is the moderator, does an excellent job of getting up the videos I suggest you have a look at. For more information about the questions that you ask about passing a driver's test, becoming a safer, smarter driver, or starting a career as a truck or bus driver, we can help you with all of that. So again, if you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what class of license you're going for and how we can help you out. Garden State, almost a month ago, I got T-boned by a car trying to turn left in an intersection without your lessons. I am certain I could have been injured or even killed. Cheers to all. Yes, and we're happy to hear that you escaped unscathed. Any driving crash, any car crash that you can walk away from is a good crash, because there is lessons to be learned from those. And for new drivers who just got their license, Corey will put the video up for you on the playlist for new drivers. If you did get a license, where you're going to get into trouble most likely is doing left-hand turns at intersections, especially in the dark. So be careful with those. And if you're not comfortable doing left-hand turns, executing left-hand turns, find a mentor, maybe even take a driving lesson with a driving instructor that can help you out with all of that and keep you safe. The other interesting statistic that I learned this week, I already knew the statistic in the United States that approximately almost two-thirds of traffic crashes, fatal traffic crashes, happen on rural two-lane roadways. And I have a couple of videos up here. Maybe Corey can find those. I think they're shorts. 62% of fatal crashes in Canada are on rural roads. So I found that specific source for that information as well in one of the government handouts. So it's the same in both the United States and in Canada. Country rural roads, two-lane rural roads, and often many of these crashes 3 times more happen at night than during the daytime. So know that if you're out in the middle of the night driving on a two-lane country road, be very careful of where other traffic is and where other road users and those types of things to keep yourself safe. My friend Klaus is here from Germany. Good evening, good evening. Doing fine, tuning in from Rosenheim County, southeastern Bavaria. It's 1:04 in the morning. Awesome. Welcome, my friend. Bush, I passed my road test a few days ago. Thank you so much for your videos. You are most welcome, my friend. Marion, Rick, can you please explain what indicators to use when you do a reverse parking? So whichever direction you're coming from, Marion, so if the parking space is here and you pull out here and you're backing in here, you're going to have to use the right. My right, your left. So whichever way you're moving the back end of the vehicle is the way that you signal when you're backing up and changing directions of the vehicle. That's what you want to do. Goodrich, should I perform a left turn from the outer lane, or should I swerve back to the right lane in front of the parked cars, then make a left turn from that position? Giovanna, I'm not understanding. I'm Jenny in Calgary. Thanks for doing a live. When driving in a neighborhood with fairly narrow two-way traffic, there may be parked cars on the right close to an intersection. Yes. Okay. I'm trying to envision what you're asking me about the left-hand turn. Because I'm not following. Left turn from the outer lane, or should I swerve back to the right in front of parked cars? When you're making a left-hand turn at an intersection, you need to be left of your lane, but not over the center line is where you need to be to position your vehicle to make a left-hand turn. So you want to turn left lane to left lane. So whatever lane is closest to the left, and then move into the left lane on the other side of the intersection, if that makes sense. AP, who is at fault while changing lanes when a collision occurs? AP, those are not very common. Sideswipe crashes when making lane changes is not very common, especially if the person that's changing lanes communicates effectively. If they communicate effectively, the other person's going to get the attention, okay? Because as I said in the presentation, 3 flashes of your turn signal, okay? The first flash is to get the attention of the other driver. The second flash is for them to locate you, because our eyes are attracted to light and movement. That's what happens, okay? So we're driving along like this, and all of a sudden out of the corner of our eye, we see something flashing over here, and we're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. So now click. So we're into the second flash now. They're like, oh, okay, I can slow down a little bit, and they can speed up, and then, or I'm gonna speed up and get past them is one of the other things. This is why we need to have 3 flashes. Now, the answer to your question in terms of due diligence and the onus of responsibility is on the merging driver, the driver that's changing lanes. They need to take all precautions, observation, communication, position of their vehicle. They need to do all of that effectively before they change lanes. Obviously, if it's a crash and they determine that the one person was changing lanes and didn't observe or communicate effectively with other traffic, it's going to be deemed their fault, right? And so that's what you need to do. Now, drivers of larger vehicles like myself, you'll notice that one of the advanced techniques that we put in place when we're changing lanes is we will have 3 flashes on the signals. We've done all our checks. We've mirror signal shoulder checked. We look on the other side. The space is adequate. And then we move over. We test it. We'll move left of center. We won't change lanes again, but we'll move the vehicle, and we'll have that 3 flashes on the signal, and we'll check again, and then we'll move over. And that's a technique of bigger vehicles where we kind of use the position of the vehicle in addition to the turn signals to warn other traffic that we are in fact moving over, and that's what we do. My friend Tim is here. Hello. Tim says the same thing. The onus on the person changing lanes to do so without affecting other traffic. There we go. And the other reason, so when the person backs off, you are going to speed up as you're changing lanes. Not speed up, but you're accelerating and holding power, because you got to speed up a little bit to compensate for that extra distance as you're moving across on an angle. So that's going to help out all that as well. All right, Tim is here, Drive Smart BC. If you are in the province of British Columbia and want to know anything about traffic laws, court cases that affect traffic, significant events here going on in the province, road maintenance, engineering, those types of things, check out his website, Drive Smart BC, as well. Excellent forum over there with experts that you can engage with and talk about traffic safety topics. So there you go. Klaus, the thing is, some drivers thinking they're above the law and can do what they want. Just a side note, you were a driving instructor since I was 5 years old. Yeah, crazy, isn't it, Klaus? I was thinking about that some years ago in the 1990s. I dated a woman, and she had a 16-year-old daughter at the time. I don't know, I was probably 28 or something. I can't remember. I could do the math if I wanted to sit down and do it. But the interesting part about it, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking, Melissa would be 46 now. And I was like, okay, that's pretty crazy. It's just crazy how fast time goes. Garden State, what's your thoughts on the jug handle style left turns of New Jersey? Garden State, I think they are a great idea that you do this. You get on the jug handle to do the turns in New Jersey. They definitely eliminate the dangers of crossing oncoming traffic with left turns, and it certainly reduces traffic congestion. The problem with jug handles is they take up a lot of real estate, so they cost a lot of money, and you need a lot more space. It's a little bit like roundabouts. They take up more space than a conventional intersection, at least the way that we build them here in North America. Not so much in Australia and in Great Britain and Europe and China and other places. They're not so big. But the way that we build them here in North America, yes, roundabouts are huge and take up a lot of real estate. Thank you for the lecture. You are most welcome, my friend. Jillian, preparing for my road test, do you have any recommendations of must-watch videos? Jillian, yes, I do, and I actually have a must-watch playlist. Corey will put that up for you, and that'll help you out. So definitely have a look at those 4 videos. So definitely must watch videos. Automatic fails, common mistakes, chance events that could happen on your road test, and 4 components that you need in place to be successful on passing your driver's test. Tim says, I knew I was getting old when I was starting to work with the children, people that I had worked with, working with the children of the people I had worked with. Yeah, yes, indeed. That is definitely a signpost that you are indeed getting older. Damero, I passed mine the first time out. Thank you, women drivers. That's awesome. Congratulations on passing your test. And thank you for letting us know, coming back and letting us know. That is really, really terrific. Awesome, awesome. All right, any other comments here? Bus driver, funnily enough, one of the things pushing me towards bus driving rather than trucks is not having to deal with manual transmission, that and the pay. Actually, Valhalla, most big trucks now are automatics. If you go and are working for the larger fleets, you're working for Schneider National, JB Hunt, Swift, any of those large carriers, they're going to all be automatic transmissions now. The only trucking companies now that have manual transmissions are those that are going to be hauling heavy. Like, for example, Super Bs here in the province of British Columbia, Western Canada, which are 145,000 pounds, 63,500 kilograms. Those trucks are all manual transmissions, or if you're running in the mountains a lot. Flat decks and those types of things, you're going to be running manual transmissions. But for the most part, everything now in the larger fleets is going to be automatic transmissions, which is a bit of a shame because I have this professional theory that we are losing driving skills owing to advancing automotive technology. And when I say automotive technology, I'm including trucks in that as well. You know, all of this surveillance technology, you know, lane departure assist, adaptive cruise control, sensors that are going off every time you make a move on the vehicle and those types of things. I just think that we're losing a lot of driver skills. Evan, what is the purpose of construction signs saying watch for ice? Watch for ice. Devin, I don't know for sure. Tim might be able to weigh on this a little bit. Watch for ice is that maybe spraying water to keep dust down, and during the daytime it's warm enough that it stays as water, but at night it gets cold and it freezes and it becomes ice. So they may put up that sign just to warn people that potentially there could be ice on the roadways in the construction area. So that's one of the reasons. Mallory, when turning, when is the proper time to turn on your turn signal before you get to the intersection? Approximately 100 feet. And I find it's easier to teach students kind of 8 to 12 flashes on the turn signal is a better distance because it's relative and it works out on the highway too. If you say 100 feet or half a city block, those types of things, it tends to limit and it doesn't apply to all situations. But 10 to 12 is, excuse me, ideal. 3 flashes minimum on the turn signal before changing directions of the vehicle. Klaus, what car are you driving in the short video stopping with an automatic transmission in winter? It was a Volvo, but not what model. Klaus, I don't know. It was Gavin's car. And it was, I think it's, how old did he say it was? I think it was a 98 or something. Yeah, it was a Volvo, but I don't know. Rawson, I'm doing well, my friend. Michelle, I'm new here, haven't been practicing lately. On Thursday, my glasses snapped in half and I've been really sick lately, still am. So this is my only practice I have at the moment. Michelle, hopefully you're getting better soon. I got sick about a month ago and it took me almost a month to kind of get back to normal. Still up in the morning and, you know, phlegmy and fluey and all that stuff. It just took a long time. Giovanna, thanks for the answer, Rick. To make sense, you are most welcome. Klaus, I do have an answer for you. I'm pretty sure it's on my phone. I will look and get you that information for that car that I was driving. Garden State, I drive a box truck. Used to have a manual at my company. Now it's automatic. I drive a manual car, so I don't mind the automatic truck. Okay. Me personally, I still prefer a manual transmission. I think that's one of the reasons why I keep driving the buggy. And I've talked about this previously. And Scotty Kilmer, this is one of the points that I do disagree with Scotty. And my phone is ringing. I forgot. I don't know why it didn't turn off. One of the things on the checklist that I forgot to do was to turn the phone off. And Tim is right about bridges and overpasses. Bridges and overpasses freeze first. So that's probably why there's an ice sign in the construction area. All right. Excellent. Ross, and I've learned a lot from you, man. I've been driving for almost on a daily basis. Awesome. Yes. It's there's just no end of other things going on here, between the dogs and the phone ringing and, forgetting to put it on do not disturb and those types of things. Yeah, just all kinds of things going on. So, Michelle, hoping you get better for sure. All right, so 4 components. I'll just review this for all the people who are watching this and going for the driver's test and looking for automatic fails. There are 4 components that you need in place. Oh, that's what it was. Scotty Kilmer in the background. I was talking about Scotty Kilmer. We were talking about manual transmissions. And he was saying that the reason North Americans, the United States and Canada drive automatic transmissions is due to the fact that automatic transmissions are now getting the same fuel mileage as manual transmission, which is, I can't agree with that at all. I completely disagree with that. It's a question of, is the dog wagging the tail or is the tail wagging the dog? And I think it's a case of the tail is wagging the dog in terms of this manual transmission thing. Because, I'm going to say something that may not be appropriate in terms of gender, but it's not manly to drive a pickup truck that doesn't have a manual transmission in it. If it's got an automatic transmission in it, it isn't a pickup truck. It's just not. I'm sorry. Okay? And automatic transmissions are not designed to pull stuff. I mean, yeah, once in a while they'll pull your boat down to the thing, or once in the spring they'll pull your utility trailer and those types of things. But if you're doing some real heavy hauling, you need a manual transmission. They're robust. They'll stand up to what you need them to do. And I just want that control when I'm driving. So disagreeing with Scotty, and he's saying that, it's because they get better fuel mileage. No. When it comes to drivers, they're lazy. This is the bottom line. They're lazy. They don't want to learn how to drive manual transmissions, and they don't want to be bothered with driving manual transmissions. And the bottom line is that most people simply don't have the skill set to be able to drive a manual transmission well. Okay? So, I disagree. And he did not even make reference to the fact that here in North America, 85% are automatic transmissions and 15% are manual, whereas in Europe, it's completely the reverse. 85% of vehicles in Europe are manual transmissions and 15% are automatics. It's hard pressed to get an automatic transmission when you go to Europe. So why is that in Europe that most of the vehicles are manual, but here in North America? I think it's because of marketing, and it's what the auto manufacturers want to market to their audience and to their consumers. That automatic transmissions, we build them, you buy them, we charge you more for them, we can make more money. I think that's basically what it comes down to. Tim says, my supervisor used to say, put it in D for dumb and go. And yes, and I feel the same way. We were having a conversation over on Twitter today with the truck drivers about, manual transmissions and automatic transmissions and those types of things. Ross, and I'm from the U.S. and I have lived in Ohio for almost 12 years. Okay, excellent. And Corey's put up the playlist there on how to drive a manual car for beginners. Excellent. Valhalla, for me, it's because of the smoothness, efficiency, and the fact I can think about driving. I can think about driving instead of shifting. Yeah, there's that part. But, basically I can drive my manual transmission. I don't have to think about it anymore. But saying that, I was in a dump truck with somebody I was, considering going in and buying a business with some years ago. And they didn't have a great deal of experience. And they couldn't talk to me and drive and shift the dump truck. Finally, I said to him, if you want to have a conversation, I said, maybe you should let me drive. And I just got in it and, I could drive it. And for those of you who have experience driving manual transmissions, non-synchromesh manual transmissions, there's more skill. There's a much higher level of skill required for non-synchromesh transmissions as opposed to just driving a synchromesh that are found in most cars. So Yeah, so I had to drive so we could have a conversation because his skill set wasn't that high for driving non-synchro mesh manual transmissions. Koshi, failed third time today. Can I stop again after the stop sign? You can if there isn't enough room for you to go in those types of things, but Corey will put up the playlist for you on stop signs and how to handle two-way stop signs, and that'll help you out. There is no limit on the number of times you can fail, is my understanding. In some states, there is a requirement that you have to do online courses and those types of things, but for the most part, you can just keep going until you finally pass. But it's easier if you can put the skills and abilities in place that you need to be able to pass within the first couple of times. Garden State, I also don't like the term driving stick. It's a manual. Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from. It is kind of an old saying of driving stick. Yeah, it's a little bit weird for sure. Manual transmission, driving a manual. Michelle, as many times as you need to, but costs money each time. Yes, it does when you take your driver's test. Also, you have to rebuild your confidence and try and take the test again. So there's that part of it as well when you're unsuccessful on your driver's test. Ivy, also, what do they mainly look out for failing wise, like top 4 things? Ivy, probably I'll just back up. There's 2 reasons that you will fail your driver's test, okay? You have too many demerit points or you fail outright. It's more likely most people fail because of too many mistakes. And the number 1 mistake is shoulder checking. Shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check, 2 times for every turn. Okay, shoulder check for lane changes. Shoulder check every time you change direction of the vehicle. So mirror signal shoulder check every time you change directions of the vehicle. That's the number 1 thing. The other thing is that your speed is not consistent. It's not smooth. You're not getting the vehicle up to speed. You're following too close. You're stopping too close to traffic. Those types of things. All of that will cause you to fail your driver's test. Okay, and Corey will put up the must-see playlist for you, which is most common top 10 mistakes on a driver's test, 10 automatic fails on a driver's test, chance events like coming to a stop at a yellow light, turning right on a red light. And yes, if you are turning right on a red light and it is busy, you can in fact wait for the green light. Okay, so those are some of the most common mistakes on a driver's test that will cause you to fail. But the 2 reasons you will fail: too many mistakes, automatic fail. You didn't stop for an emergency vehicle, or you charged a yellow light and it turned red and you were in the intersection. That will cause you to fail a driver's test. So those are the things that you need to keep in mind for skills and techniques to be successful on passing your driver's test first time. Michelle, my youngest son does manual transmission. Awesome. All right. Tim, ADAS is automatic driver assistance, not replacement. Keep doing shoulder checks. Yes, blind spot detectors and those types of things. It's just a backup. Technology is just a backup. As I say, again and again, not shoulder checking is to driving what not checking to see if a weapon is loaded is to gun safety. Why would you move a 2,500, 3,000 pound vehicle at speed and not look in your blind areas to see if there's another road user there? And as we said, again, with defensive driving and becoming a safer, smarter driver, we know that in a 30, 40, 50-year career of driving, that in those 30 to 50 years, you're only going to crash 3, maybe 4 times, once every 15 to 17 years. So what happens with most drivers in the arena of social driving, this is the problem and the challenges that you're facing every day when you're out on the roadways, is because people go along for so long without having a crash or an incident, they're lulled into the false sense that they're a good driver. Because how many times have we heard people say or comment here on the channel or on other social media, oh, I've been driving for 20 years and never had a crash. I'm a good driver. Yeah, well, I've been dressing myself since I was 4 years old. I never went out of the house without my pants on either. It doesn't mean that I'm a snappy dresser. It doesn't mean that you're a good driver. It's inductive reasoning that is not foolproof. It doesn't mean that you're a good driver. Okay? So these skills and abilities of defensive driving, shoulder checking, observing correctly, signaling every time you change directions of the vehicle, these skills and abilities May not help you out today, tomorrow, next month, next year, 5 years from now, but in 8 years, it may be the very skill and technique that prevents you from having a crash. So practice defensive driving skills that are going to keep you safe over the duration of your career. Do not get lulled into the false sense that you are a good driver just because you haven't had a crash in 10 years. That doesn't mean you're a good driver. That just simply means that maybe you were lucky, or maybe that everybody else in the driving arena who are around you compensated for your mistakes. All right? Because this is what happens. Rawson, I know that in a manual transmission, when you are about to park, you have to apply the parking brake. I do it in an automatic transmission, and yes, you should do it regardless of whether it's an automatic transmission or a manual transmission. Now, the other thing that you should do in a manual transmission, and I saw this on a video, one of these video shorts where they're teaching you how to drive a manual transmission, leave it in gear. All right? Because don't just rely on the parking brake to hold the vehicle. And it was actually funny because years and years ago, I was dating a woman who was driving a manual car, and she parked the car in the driveway and came out and found her car out in the middle of the street because the driveway was on a hill. And she said, "I don't understand. I applied the parking brake." And I said to her, "Well, did you leave it in gear?" "No, you don't leave it in gear." I said, "Yes, you do." So in a manual transmission, you leave it in gear and you put the parking brake on. It's the same thing as an automatic transmission. You have to have that backup. You put it in park and apply the parking brake so that it'll still be there when you come back to find it after you've left and gone wherever. Okay? Garden State, it's best to apply the parking brake in autos too. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because that little pawl in there in the parking slot is not going to hold the car. You want the brakes to hold the car, not the transmission. All right. Marion, I can turn the car off if I leave it in gear. Oh, yes. No, Marion. Manual transmission, leave it in gear. Automatic transmission, you got to put it in park. Yes, I found that out in an automatic car that I'd rented, that you're going to lock yourself out of the car and it won't start again. Epic, hit the cone. You failed the test. Happened to be back in January 2018 when the examiner told me to back into it. Why would the examiner tell you to back into the cone? That's so weird. Yes, if you are doing parallel parking with cones, backing into a parking space with cones, doing Ohio maneuverability tests, and you strike a cone, that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. All what Tim said there about emergency vehicles, yes, move to the nearest side of the road, stop, put on your emergency flashers, wait till the emergency vehicle passes, and if there's a police car, there may be an ambulance. They do travel in packs, so know that, especially for the purposes of safety after you get your driver's license, but for the purposes of a driver's test, if you don't stop right away for emergency vehicles, you will not be successful on your test. It's an automatic fail. And I'll tell you a story about that. I had a student who was going for his truck driver's license the next day, and of course he comes in the morning and he's like, "I got this. We're good to go, blah, blah, blah." You know, he's all full of himself and he thinks he's got whatnot. And so we went out of town on one of the test routes, went around, came back, and here in town, the main highway comes down a hill past the hospital. It's called Hospital Hill, oddly enough. Not very original. And I saw the emergency vehicle come out where they parked the vehicles, and come down and then turned at the intersection. I was like, "Oh, bugger." And because I knew he wasn't ready for the emergency vehicle thing. And anyway, so we went through the intersection, and of course they travel in packs, as Tim said. And then the police car came out, but the police car, he was past the intersection, and the police car went by, and he didn't stop and didn't slow down. He just kept driving. And of course I started laughing, and I said, "Well, unfortunately, you just failed your driver's test." He's like, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What was that? What are you talking about, Wilson? Wilson? Was it Wilson?" Yeah, that. Anyway, that. And I said, you didn't stop for the emergency vehicle." He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that." I'm like, "Well, it was a good learning lesson, and unfortunately, you didn't fail your driver's test, so there's what happens." Ross and I have encountered an emergency vehicle before yesterday, and was a police car with flashlights flashing lights and he or she was moving. Yes, they will. Epic. Another thing to do also causes you to fail a road test is using social driving mindset, like rolling stops and running over the painted lines. Yellows ended up doing on my second test. Yes, if you participate in social driving, what everybody else is doing on the roadway, following too close, stopping too close to traffic, speeding, not using your turn signals, those types of things, etc., 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 on and on and on, you will not be successful in your driver's test. If you want to be successful on your driver's test, you need to have the 4 components in place: space management, speed management, observation, and communication. You have to have those 4 techniques and skills in place to be successful on your driver's test. So through the duration of your test, 3 to 4 second following distance, and when you stop in traffic, 1 vehicle length back from the vehicle in front. The way you know that is you can see the tires in front making clear contact with the pavement. Posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less for the purposes of driving on your test. All right. Observation, forward scanning pattern, far down the road, check your instrument panel, far down the road, center mirror down the road, wing mirror, side mirror, other side mirror, and then far down the road. And you need to be repeating that scanning pattern every 10 to 12 seconds. The driving examiner will know that you're not observing correctly if your speed is up and down and all over the place, because you should be checking your instrument panel every 10 to 12 seconds and adjusting your speed. How much can I go over? How much can I go under? That depends on how long you went over. Okay, if you're going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit for the duration of the test, you're not going to be successful. But if you go over 3 or 4 miles an hour and then you adjust it right away back to the speed limit, you're going to be okay for your driver's test. All right. Scanning, observing, reversing, you got to look out through the back window. You can use a backup camera, you can use your mirrors, but for the most part, you got to be looking out through the back window. So, fake it till you make it. I know that most cars in this day and age, you can't see out through the back window, and you need to be looking 360 degrees around your vehicle, okay? And for those of you in California, if you're doing the 50 feet along a curb, every vehicle length, kind of slow the vehicle, look around, do a 360 degree check around the vehicle to make sure that there aren't any other road users, those types of things. Communication. There are 5 ways we communicate with other traffic: position of the vehicle on the roadway, lights and signals, eye contact, hand gestures. Tell people that use all 5 fingers. Don't tell somebody they're number 1 on a driver's test. The last way we communicate is with the horn. Use it sparingly, because in North America it's seen as a sign of aggression. All right. So, space management, speed management, observation, communication are the 4 skills that you have to have in place. And it is in that playlist on 4 skills you need for the purposes of a driver's test. Tim, do research on pet restraints. There are no standards and you might buy junk. Yes, and that is excellent advice, Tim, because Tracy bought a seat restraint for Izzy Bear, and all it does is it hooks into the car seat. It is fastened to the car seat, but it just hooks onto her collar. It's not going to save her in the event of a car crash. There's no restraint there. Probably, I would guess that the best restraint that you would have is to have your pet crate trained and then have the crate somehow fastened into the restraint system within the vehicle. I don't know how that would work, and there's probably something out there that you can get for your pet. But the unfortunate part is somewhere on my site I have a marketplace video on pet restraints. Excellent. Okay, and we can have a look at that too, and we can put that up for a resource. Rawson, what happens when the vehicle parking brake is on for a while and hasn't been driven for a while? Rawson, most of the time you're going to be okay. I mean, unless the vehicle's been sitting for 6 months, a year, you're not going to have any issues with it. But, that's just what happens. Emily, what is the best approach to entering a parking space driving straight in? For some reason, this has been challenging for me, getting the angle correct. Yeah, Emily, and oftentimes what happens is, if you're driving into a parking space, you have to stay out a little bit and drive. So you should be, when you start turning, you should be in the center of the parking space before the one that you want to turn into. That's your landmark, okay? And that's when you start turning into the parking space. Now, something that happened to me yesterday because the other person was not practicing situational awareness and paying attention to what the heck was going on, pulled into the apartment complex at Tracy's and pulled in. And of course, it was partly my fault because I didn't look before I opened the door and popped the door open. Of course, the parking spaces are close together. There's not ample room there to open your door. And flopped the door open, stood out of the car, and the person in the space next to me just comes zooming into the parking space and slammed on the brakes and gave me a dirty look. Because had they kept going, they would have hit the back of my door. And I was like, how did you not see me just pull into the parking lot and not know that I was going to get out of the car? Like, people are not thinking sequentially of the events that are going to happen when they're driving. It's like I come into a parking lot and I see another car move into a space, and then I move into the space right next to them. Now I'm thinking, that person just pulled in there, probably going to get out of the car and open the door. And this is part of being a smarter, safer driver and having situational awareness of what is potentially going on in the driving environment in which you find yourself, right? If I pull in beside somebody that just pulled into a parking space, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to be really careful and I'm going to go really slowly because they just pulled into the parking lot and they may not see me coming, and they're probably going to get out of the car. So, yeah, think about sequential events, because most of the time, traffic is predictable. It's when people do unpredictable things that we get into crashes, and it's when you don't have situational awareness that you cause unpredictable things to happen. So, there you go. There's a little driving thing to keep in mind. Ivy, also, you first start the test, do you just check your mirrors and seatbelt? Ivy, when you first start the test, the driving examiner is going to do a mini pre-trip inspection on your vehicle. So this is one of the things I was saying at the beginning of the presentation. Make sure that before you go down the night before, if you're taking your own car, take it down, get it vacuumed, make sure all the junk and whatnot is out of the footwells and those types of things. Make sure that your seatbelt works. Make sure that the seatbelt on the passenger side works. Make sure that the door on the passenger side works, opens and closes from the inside and the outside. Make sure you have the registration, the insurance, check all the lights. And what else did you ask me? Yes, seatbelts, lights, those types of things. When you come to the test center for your test, show up 20 minutes to a half an hour early. If you can back into the parking space, if there aren't signs that prevent you from backing in. I know that some places in Manhattan, the Bronx, other major metropolitans, you won't have a parking space or an office for the DMV. You'll just pull up along the curb. But know that they're going to do a pre-trip inspection. If you're going with a driving school and you're using the driving school car, ask him or her, your driving instructor, if he or she did a pre-trip inspection on the car. I've seen lots of people, and I've had lots of people come back over the years here on the YouTube channel and tell me they were denied their test because they had a brake light out on their car, or they had borrowed their uncle's car that was from another state that didn't require them to have a front license plate. And those are safety deficiencies that the examiner can deny you your test. So know that and make sure that you do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle. Unfortunately, I had a student of mine who the registration had lapsed, right? So the car wasn't insured, and they took it down for the driver's test. And they said, oh, sorry, we can't go out with you, okay? So those things happen. Klaus, that's normal. People don't use their brain. They just have air between the ears. Yes, there is that. Tim, driving is like chess. You always need to think a few moves ahead. Indeed, absolutely. And Ivy, the other thing is, if you back into the parking space and you're going to drive out, do your 360-degree scan, signal coming out of the parking space. Okay, you don't want to be earn demerits right off the hop when you're starting your test. The examiner gets in, you're nervous, those types of things, so it's always better to go forward. Tyler, I passed my Class 5 road test with no errors, and that is absolutely awesome, Tyler. Congratulations on passing your test with a perfect score. Brilliant, brilliant. Awesome. Ivy, I've also asked if you could move forward and restart the maneuverability. Ivy, you cannot restart the maneuverability test, but you can have a pull-up. okay? They may assign you some points. Most of the time, with most maneuvers, you're allowed 1 pull-up before they start assigning maneuvers. Now, with the Ohio maneuverability test, the trick to that is to stay tight to the driver's side, okay? Because the passenger side will look after itself. So if you can stay tight to the driver's side, 6 or 8 inches from the pylons on the driver's side, the passenger side is going to look after itself and it's going to be just fine. Betsy, I'm taking my driving test on the 18th and feeling anxious. I'm trying to prepare myself by watching your videos. Awesome. Also remember, Betsy, breathe. That'll cause your body to relax. So, get some of that out. And no, if you've done the work, done the preparation, you're going to be just fine, okay? No need to be nervous. Most people, once they take their driver's test, they find it's a lot easier than what they think it's going to be, okay? The driving examiners, for the most part, are really nice, will help you out and those types of things. So know that. Klaus, what am I drinking? I'm just drinking water. I still got a bit of a tickle in my throat that's causing me to cough and whatnot. Mary, when I did my test, I made sure, I think it's sure, that my driving instructor was buckled in. She was pleased that I asked. Awesome. Indeed. Yes, make sure they do up their seatbelt. It's unlikely that it's... Actually, no. Driving examiners are not going to try and trick you. Okay? Let me just clarify that right now. They are not going to try and trick you. They know that you don't have a great deal of experience. And they're not going to try and trick you. They're not going to not wear their seatbelt to try and figure out if you notice whether they wore their seatbelt or not, okay? Unless they're a real ogre. And I'm talking about, like, the unlikeliness of that is, like, you winning the lottery. They have managers they have to answer to. It's not likely that they're going to not put their seatbelt on and say, oh, hey, you didn't tell me I had to put my seatbelt on. They won't do that. Okay, they know that you don't have a high driving skill and they want to see you pass. Trust you me, I have ridden back from the test center with students that have not passed their driving test, that it is not any fun. Because you're just like in the truck, they failed their driver's test and you're just sitting in it. You're just sitting in it and it's so uncomfortable. Driving examiners, as much as driving instructors, want you to pass. Okay? They want you to pass. They're hoping and praying that you pass so that they can give you good news because it makes everybody happy. If they have to tell you that you fail, that's not happy news. Okay? That is not happy news. And trust me, I've been in enough trucks because the thing about truck driving schools, they're not near the test center. Okay? They're 15 or 20 minutes away, half an hour away from the test center, and you got to drive back in the truck and you're just sitting in it. You're just sitting in it, right? And it's not fun because the student they are upset, to put that mildly. They are upset and they don't want to hear anything from you. So know that. Excellent. Okay, with gas or natural water? It's just water, Klaus. Just water, man. It's just water. It's not like when I was in university and we used to have these presentations by the professors and those types of things. And I don't know what happened. We had this guest professor and we're sitting in the room and she's giving the presentation, blah, blah, blah. And, academics are weird. They're weird. And one of the other people reached for her water bottle and she just grabbed it from him. And a couple of years later, I found out that actually she was a functioning alcoholic and the water bottle was in fact full of vodka. It wasn't full of water at all. But why somebody else would reach for your water bottle, I don't know. I would be upset too, even if it did have just water in it. It's like, you're not drinking my water. I don't know you very well, and we're not those kind of people. We don't share water. Tim says unbelted passengers are a significant danger to others in the vehicle during a crash. Yes, they are. Yes, they are, Tim. Yeah, because you got flying people in the vehicles, and this was one of the other reasons that we went away from bench seats. This is why most cars now have bucket seats in them. I know we don't even think of them called bucket seats anymore. This is something, now I'm aging myself, bucket seats and bench seats. This is the reason we went away from bench seats in the front of the vehicles, is because when there was a crash and there were 3 people in the front of the car, you would get them banging their skulls together and you would have significant injuries caused by banging of heads and shoulders and going into faces and those types of things. So this is why we have moved away from bench seats in the front of vehicles now, and we have bucket seats. Bucket seats. I haven't heard that term for a very long time, bucket seats, but that's what they are in the front. We have bucket seats because they were only in sports cars when I was a kid, right? And you had to pay more for that. So, excellent. All right. Ivy, how long is the test? Ivy, it depends where you are. If you're in larger metropolitan places like Los Angeles, California, or you're in Manhattan or in the Bronx, it's going to be 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. All right. If you're in some of the rural areas, rural villages, and those types of things, I took Charlie up to Salmon Arm, which is a small village here north in the interior of British Columbia. And of course, they don't have very many tests during the day, so they're not very busy. So the test was like 40 minutes. Okay, so it depends where you are and how long the test is going to be. You're in Ohio, probably it's not going to be longer than a half an hour. Most of them are kind of 15 to 25 minutes is the length of the average test. Bush, can an instructor that's in a bad mood hinder the driver's performance by causing them to be more nervous and so forth? Bush, absolutely. They can, okay? They can be miserable in a grumpy mood and those types of things. But again, your job, take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. If they're in a grumpy mood and they get in the car and they start barking orders, you just like say in your head, don't say it out loud, screw you, I'm going to pass, and just focus on what you need to do to pass your driver's test. I know that's tough, but that's what you need to do. Good night, my friend Tim. Good night, everybody else. If you had a driver's test in the last couple of weeks, good luck. Congratulations on passing. If you had a driver's test in the last couple of weeks, congratulations on passing. That's awesome. You got a test coming up in the next week or so. Good luck on that. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. And the phone's ringing again. Have a good night. Bye now.